Hey gang, it's Deltia from DeltiasGaming.com here to bring you the Lightning Tornado 2.0. I released it back in July 22nd, 2014, and since then Elder Scrolls has gone under a lot of change, and I have too. I've learned a lot about the game, armor, abilities, skills, everything, and then the Sorc specifically. So, with my guide, my written guide being published on Elder Scrolls Online site, I figured it's time to update this and give it an overhaul. So let's get started. I'm going to go over skills, gear, and then of course how to use it and be a destructive lightning tornado beast mode 2.0. Die NPC! Die! Ah! Okay, well, unfortunately, the update isn't out where we can kill NPCs yet, but it's coming. So Elder Scrolls is going to have NPC deaths, which is going to be a lot of fun. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Lightning Tornado 2.0 skills and how to use them. Don't do what I'm doing, because streaking 5 times is bad. Especially if you use a potion, you keep doing it. Okay, I'm in Riften VR5 zone. I want to talk about skills, kind of how I use them and what the bars are for after this creepy guy stops following me. Let's go to the pub. He won't go to the pub. Oh, he's going to the pub. Don't go in the withering tree, NPC. Okay. Well, this guy is persistent. If I could only kill him. Anyways. Skills. Bar 1, dual wield. Bar 2, bow. Dual wield is amazing for AoE target, and that's kind of what we're going to use it for. Bar 2 and a bow is good for single target and keeping enemies off you. That's what we're going to use that for. So let's explain kind of the bar setup right to left. I want to get right to left for a specific purpose, because number 1, you can kind of move this around and use a different ability if you'd like. So, first things first, Flawless Dawnbreaker. I always have this on almost all my weapon damage abilities because it has a passive weapon attack deals 13% more damage. Mine says 10 because it's not via 4 yet, but it will be. I don't ever use this morph, but I have it there just to get more and more damage. Damage is important in this build. The more damage you do, the more often you crit, the more heals you have. Streak. Probably the coolest ability in the game, one of the coolest. You just zoom forward. The good part about Streak Morph is it deals shock damage to enemies and stuns them for a little bit. Shock damage, no matter if it's insignificant or a huge amount, gives you ultimate. So streaking through a bunch of enemies is a good way to generate ultimate and stun them if you're having trouble. It's also a good gap closer, so every build needs to have one of those. Our first stamina ability, Flying Blade. It's a low cost throw dagger and it snares the target for 6 seconds. This is a good while you're moving and closing the gap or an enemy is trying to get away from you, just snare them. It's a low cost and does high damage and has a 28 meter range. So this is how you stay on target if you're having trouble in this bar and enemies are getting away from you. You can always peel back and throw this thing as you're closing the distance. Our major ability here is Steel Tornado. It deals 152 physical damage around in their area, but damage is increased versus enemies with lower health. The lower health they get, the more damage this does. The 12.5 meter radius is an enormous amount. You're hitting tons of enemies. The more enemies around you, the more damage you're going to do. So as the enemies wither down, you kill them. You might want to switch to bar 2 to whittle down 1 or 2. I usually use this bar while 3 enemies are up, then go back to the second to finish the rest. And Critical Surge, the most overpowered ability in the game, increases weapon damage by an obscene amount, and critical strikes heal you. It says critical strikes. What's a critical strike? Well, pretty much anything. It could be stamina, it could be magicka, it doesn't matter. So 65% of that damage inflicted is going to come back as health. That's our self-healing with this whole build, and what it's based off of is using these 2 abilities, having Surge up and still tornadoing a bunch of different people. Boundless Storm is a good armor and spell resistance ability, and it deals shock damage, so you're going to have a lot of AoE, building up a lot of ultimate, and it increases your movement speed too. So people are going to have a real tough time getting away from you. I like this setup, though Boundless Storms could be replaced for something else. A good ability to replace it with is Lightning Flood. That is a good synergy if you're working with the group, or Mage's Wrath if you want a finisher on your bar number 1. So that's kind of how bar number 1 works. I'm going to show you what it looks like, how I do damage with it. For bar 2, I don't have crit surge up on this bar, so if you're using bar 2, you're going to have to make sure crit surge is up and then switch to it. Working right to left, I know it's different. Absorption field, one of the coolest ultimates in the game, if not the coolest. You're going to dispel magic and self-heal, but you're going to stun and people can't cast during this 8-meter radius 11-second ability. It's amazing in PvP and PvE. You want to keep this up as often as you can. It's 213 ultimate, but with the enemies and the ultimate that we're going to be generating, shouldn't be too hard to keep this up and use it at all times. Make sure you're using this as a stun, as a self-heal, or as an enemy's casting you as a defensive. It's huge. Now we have Mage's Wrath, the finisher. I love this morph because it does explosion damage and AoE. And it's 20% health, so that's why I don't have it on my first bar. Reason being, 20% health, if it's like just an ad or a little mob, it's hard to get it. I can almost kill him with just a steel tornado. So it doesn't make sense to use this. If it's at a boss, that's when I'll use Mage's Wrath and just keep on casting it once they're at 20%. Crystal Frags, this is our stun major nuke that can be procced based on casting spells. So with Mage's Wrath and Malicious Curse, you're going to be casting a lot, but that's the whole point, is to half the cost of Crystal Frags and to cast it. So with the half cost, you're going to have some magic up if you're not just spamming this over and over. So wait till it gets procced to use it. Draining Shot, I like this. It does a decent amount of damage. It also knocks them back and snares them. I don't take Magma Shot because I don't want to be knocked back too. I want maximum control over my character. So 188 stamina cost, it's pretty cheap. So punt people back with this, and then also use it up on them if you want to dump your stamina and do some damage. Malicious Curse, you're going to curse them for a while, it's going to blow up, that's it. It has a pretty high magic cost, so you want to keep rotating this in between with other stamina abilities, but this is the whole point of it. With 3 per second duration is to proc Crystal Frags constantly. So you're going to be using this, Crystal Frags when it's up, if not Poison Arrow and Draining Shot. Venom Arrow, I should say, is the ranged interrupt. So it's putting casters off balance if they're casting, plus it has a good dot. So I'm trying to keep up my dot with Venom Arrow, casting Malicious Curse while I have magic, and then waiting for that Crystal Frags proc. Once that procs, boom, nuke them with it. Once they get low, Mage's Wrath. If they get close, Draining Shot. And that's really it for the skills. So let's talk about gear next. Alright, we're in Stone Falls, my favorite little thing. And I'm not going to jump. I will not do it. But I will streak. Boom! Okay. That's kind of derpy, but I want to talk about, after I kill this Batamangar, let's talk about gear and kind of how to optimize your damage for this build. My gear setup is pretty simple. I did ditch Vampire because I was just getting tired of the flame damage. You could do it if you wanted in using the Devouring Bats or Mistform. I just don't like it anymore, so I ditched it. And the skills and setup that I use is really conducive for a couple different sets. One, Hunding's Rage. I use this as a 5-piece bonus. It gives me good critical and increases my weapon damage. With this and Critical Surge alone, I can reach the soft cap, which is really important. You'll notice my enchantment has a health cliff in it. Why? Since I'm using a different kind of setup for my attributes, which is 24, 1, and 24, I have to have a lot of health in my gear to actually get to 2200. Why 2200? That will really prevent you from getting one-shot by certain mobs in the game. At VR 14, I'd recommend going 24, 2500 even, so you don't get one shot. But right now, that's kind of where I want to sit. For food, while I'm looking at this, make sure you're using the Tri-Stat primary stats that gets all your attributes. It's expensive to get and craft, but it's really adds so much to your character and will make a big difference later on. The Munda Stone I'll go with, crit chance increase, the Thief, pretty self-explanatory. I want more crit so I can self-heal. I get about 65% critical now, which is pretty high, using daggers. My new build uses daggers versus using swords, because they did fix it in patch 1.1, I think. So the passive for more critical on daggers does work now, so take them. And you can even get more crit if you actually upgraded this to legendary gear. Since I'm BR5, doesn't make sense to update it. The second set that I use is the Night Mother's Gaze. I have a 5 and a 4-piece set because I have 9 pieces of equipment. So this set really gives me another good amount of weapon critical. More critical I have, I don't need any other type of stat, except maybe health. So there's a couple different, you might go Ashen Grips if you wanted for more health, but this is what suits me. For rings, I go Stamina Recovery. I really want a lot since I don't have it with my race. The race that I chose is High Elf. Why? Because it's so good with Magicka. So if I have to balance 2 stats, I can have one pretty much just on my racial passes alone, which is High Elf. You could also roll a Red Guard with this build and have really good Stamina Recovery, and then have something like maybe a ring of Magicka Recover if you wanted. That's kind of how to optimize this build. Like I said, 5 pieces here, and then 4 pieces on the other set. For what traits I use, I go Divines on the light pieces, or the small pieces. So belt, shoulders, gloves, boots. The heavy or large pieces, I go Infused, and that gives me more stats on each of those pieces. So I did health, glyphs, and all my stuff to reach those numbers. Speaking of numbers, I got tons of weapon damage. Now if I cast Critical Surge, I have a lot of weapon damage. That's well into the overcharge range, which actually probably isn't that good of an idea, but I love hitting hard, so that's what I do keep it with. I have a lot of stamina and a lot of stamina recovery because I want my stamina to come back using Steel Tornado. And I have so much reduced cost with the medium armor that I use, I don't need too much reduced cost jewelry. Speaking of armor that I use, I have all medium armor. 1.4 had a huge change here to medium armor passives that really make it valuable taken. Instead of changing this agility stat, they had it where you had weapon attack speed. Now they have weapon power. So it's really valuable 5-piece set bonus that I think using 5 or more medium pieces are great. I don't use any light anymore because it doesn't make sense with the High Elf for me. If you didn't have as good magic return, you might want to go 5 medium, 2 light. But for me, all medium is going to give me a lot of crit and a lot of damage. So that's what I use. So those are kind of the stats. For your weapons, I haven't enchanted these yet, but I would do probably a fire and a cold. Fire on your primary one, cold to slow them down your secondary one. And then bow I have reducing target's armor. I like that, just to punk them down and then get close the distance and nuke them. So that's really my gear setup. Not too complicated, but it's pretty effective and I can do a lot of damage. So now that we covered gear, let's actually show you what this looks like and go over AoE damage in single target. Alright, we're at my favorite spot, the old Craglorn Proving Grounds here in Spellscar with the Lightning Tornado 2.0. Let's see how it performs and kind of explain what I'm doing in an AoE setting. So, as normal, there's a million different mobs here. I'm VR5, these are VR11, so hypothetically I shouldn't be able to kill them. Just like I said, bar 1 is mainly for AoE, while bar 2 is single target pressure, and that has our good ultimate on it. So right now I start out with an ultimate. That's kind of cheesy, so I'm going to just use it here. That way it's like I'm starting out fresh. First thing to do, charge it up. Rambo in. Get a dot on him. Hit lightning. Here we go. Now my health drops. Boom. Keep using it. Use a pot. Drops. Streak past him. Charge up a heavy. Crit surge is getting low. Here we go. Charge past him. Got him stunned. That ultimate's about up. Charge past him. Pick off this little guy. Pick up this little guy. We got the Mr. Big Guy left. He's not a problem. Just charging up some heavies. And you see my DPS really starts to go down. I could at this time switch to my other bar, but for the sake of the video, I'm just going to finish him off. Remember that Steel Tornado gets better as time goes on. Their health gets lower, so... And they're dead. So that's kind of how it works. You're kind of relying on potions, as the resources pool is really hard to manage since you have, 2 resources instead of 1 you're really trying to balance. But it's a lot of fun. You can see my health really spiking and then going up as soon as I use a AoE ability. So let's do it again just to make sure. Charge it up. So I go into stealth here sometimes, and then I use hidden daggers. Boom! That crit for 800 almost on a single target. They're all on me. Say I got ultimate up. Boom! Stun lock them. Crit surge is still up. Crit surgeon. Lightning tornado. I got some more magic. Crit surge is back up. My magic isn't dipping, so I'm going to use it. Now look, I got an ultimate almost already up again. Stamina's out. That's okay. So I'm constantly looking at my resources, and my magic's really not even moving, honestly, because I'm a high elf. So what you got to do is use your magic as kind of an AoE buffer if your stamina's gone. So what do I mean by this? After I prop Crit Surge, I have two abilities that I can use as an AoE damage ability. One, Boundless Storms, which makes it basically everyone's ticking and doing damage, and also I get a buff, but it doesn't last very long. And instantly, Streak. Then I have to turn around and go back at them. Streak's going to do some damage, and it's also going to stun them for a while. So both are good defensive abilities. I usually start off by streaking past them. If I still have a lot of magic and Crit Surge is going to be up for a while, then I'll pop this again, because it's going to be low. So if Steel Tornado is down because your stamina's out, just start using magic in between. Then when it's back up, rotate to Steel Tornado. So let's kind of try this again and just focus on the resources and how I use them this time. Alright, it's a little pull. Well, let's pull two of them, see if I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm going to use an ultimate to start out here just so I don't get in trouble. Okay, Crit Surge up. Here we go. Oh, it's a lot of them. Now, I'm getting low on stamina. Immediately pop that. Speed past them. Here we go. Pop it again. Boundless Storm. Oh, getting low. That's okay. Magic's up again. Boom. Right past them. Crit Surge. I gotta cast that. I gotta keep that up. And so right then, if you look at my magic, it's almost gone, which is okay. It goes so fast back, and then I have tons of stamina. So that's how you balance the resources for that AoE damage ability. It's kind of hard. It's tricky. It's going to take some time. This isn't easy. I've played this build for 100 hours plus. So don't think that you're going to do this in one, and some people might, but for me it took a while to kind of get this down and master it. So just think, Steel Tornado when you got stamina, Boundless Storms or Streak when you don't. Balancing both of those will keep your ultimate generation up, so that way if you get in trouble, you can always negate them. That negate's going to stun lock them, it's going to heal you if there's spells in there, and keep Crit Surge up. Don't use your magicka like crazy if your Crit Surge is about to come down. That's why I highly recommend FTC, so you can see the time left you have on the abilities. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Let's talk about single target and show you that next. Alright, we're going to show how to kind of use the second bar, bow, on a single target and put pressure on a target and kind of have some sustained damage. Now, is this going to work for trials? Probably not. You're probably going to need a Restro Destro. Is it going to work for leveling and having fun? You betcha. First thing, you're going to have to keep Crit Surge up, so that's going to be kind of hard going back and forth between bar 1 and bar 2. Crit Surge up. I usually charge up a heavy and rock a poison arrow. As they get closer, put a Malicious Curse on them. As soon as that thing pops, put another one up. That's going to proc Crystal Frags pretty often. As soon as that runs out, I just keep my dots up and watch FTC. And I'm kiting around. That's up. Keep on Crystal Frags. It's getting low. And throwing that. Oops, cast the wrong ability. If they get closer like that, just Draining Shot. Just keep on Draining Shot. And that's kind of how it works. Now, my magic, it is kind of magic dependent. So for this bar, you're probably going to have to switch potions that you're using to kind of a magic-based potion. That's going to help you out keeping up the damage. Let's try it again on Giant. Crit Surge up. Charging up heavy. Boom. Okay, Mr. Giant comes close. He likes to kick me. I don't like getting kicked. Going back to bar 1, get Crit Surge back up. Okay, I'm kind of out of magic now, so I'm just going to keep on bow attacking, weaving with bow attacks. In between doing a draining shot, I'm going to use a potion here. Go back to bar 1, make sure I have that crit surge up, because that's kind of how my health's staying back up. He's in finishing range. Boom! His little wolf buddy here, Saber Cat, came. It's fine. Oh. So that's kind of how a single target works. It's not that impressive, but when I say kiting, you're just walking around in a circle based on where the target's at. So if this tree right here is the target, I'm just going to wheel around like this and just kind of keep the space. As a ranged user, your weapon is space, keeping people away from you. You want to have a knockback or a stun and then peel back. Know what your range looks like. So if an ability takes, 28 meters, go test that out. Walk around, see what it looks like to be 28 meters and have your bar light up, because you're gonna want to keep the maximum distance you can to prevent damage. The simplest thing to tell people about gaming in MMOs, you want to do as much damage without taking any. That sounds ridiculously easy to do, but the good players are the ones who avoid damage while doing a lot. And it's hard. When you're under pressure and you're getting damage, your brain goes, oh, what do I gotta do? So like this. Let's start out and see what I do in panic mode. That's red. Red's bad. Oh, I'm about to die. Okay. I'm at 40%. Oh gosh, I'm about to die. What do? Panic mode? Nope. Gonna negate. Got my crit surge up. I am gonna go just pound this guy. Look at my health. Look at my health skyrocket. Peeling back. Now, I better take my own advice here. Get back. Getting back. Getting back. Crit surge. Gotta have that up. Gonna pot right now. Keep that range. Now I know he can't get to me. He or she. Guess I can't see if it's female mammoth. Boom! So that's it. Just don't panic. Stick to the basics of what you're doing and just try to stay alive. If you're having trouble, use potions. Use them all the time. That's what I do. Some people are like, I don't use potions. Well, what? You're crazy. Gotta use potions. And if Phala, you're listening, I'm sorry. I still love you, sweetheart. So that was the lightning tornado. What do you think? It's still fun to play. It's still relevant, though it's hard. Balancing the resources and making sure that you're always staying up and not being in a panic is difficult. The more people around you, the better you're going to do. And with some of the ultimate and Sorc class abilities, you're going to be valuable on the battlefield. Thanks for watching this video as always, and I continue to keep providing content, making new builds, and staying with Elder Scrolls Online. Thanks.